Praise the Lord. Today we're going to look at Hebrews chapter 9, verse 1 to 14. The last time we went through chapter 8, we ended with this fact that uh, the system of the first covenant is ready to vanish away and move and become obsolete at the coming of the second covenant. In chapter 9, in the beginning section of this chapter, we're going to look at the worship systems that was there in the Mosaic covenant. Now, what exactly was it? In verse 1 onwards, we see that the writer talks about two different sections in the first tent or in the first covenant. In the first section was the lampstand, the table, and the bread of the presence, or the shewbread, table of the shewbread. And this place is called the holy place. Moving on to the next few verses in this section, the author says that in this holy place, priests could regularly go and perform their ritual duties. And the author then moves on to talk about the next important section within the tabernacle, and that is the most holy place. And in the most holy place, which is separated from the holy place by a curtain, in the most holy place, there were a few things that was included in there. One was the golden altar of incense. Now, if we are looking at the Old Testament books, especially in Exodus chapter 30, the golden altar of incense was not in the most holy place according to Exodus 30, but it was placed right in front of the veil. So, the altar of incense, when fire was lighted on that, the smoke used to travel to the most holy place. So it was virtually inseparable. The altar of incense, you couldn't actually categorize it as to, only it belongs to the holy place or the most holy place. But for technical reasons, we know that it is not part of the most holy place, but for some reasons the author of Hebrews has chosen to include that here. And what are the other things that he wants to record about the most holy place? Apart from the altar of incense that the author of Hebrews records in the most holy place, there are other things. The Ark of the Covenant, which was covered on all sides with gold, and in the Ark of the Covenant, there were three different things. One was the golden urn holding the manna, and the next thing was Aaron's staff that budded, and the tablets of the covenant. So, if you're looking at these three things are a symbol or or a representation of various ingredients that characterize the Mosaic covenant. Aaron's staff that budded was the proof of the Aaronic priesthood in the book of Numbers. The tablets of the covenant were the visible manifestations of the covenant that God made with Israel through Moses. And manna was the way in which God sustained the people of Israel throughout their journey in the wilderness. Now, with these three being said, these are the things that were there in the most holy place. And the next thing that we read in verse 5 is that above the Ark of the Covenant was the cherubim of glory overshadowing the mercy seat. So, in other words, God's presence was right there in the mercy seat, which was above the Ark of the Covenant. Now, into this place, not all priests could enter. As we read in verse 7 of chapter 9, into the second section, that is the most holy place, the high priest goes, and that is only once in a year, precisely on the Day of Atonement. And he doesn't go without blood in his hands. He takes blood in his hands. As we look through number 16, we understand the rituals that happen during the Day of Atonement. So there is one goat that is being killed, and its blood is used to get into the most holy place. And we need to realize one thing here. the high priest who goes once in the year into the most holy place goes with blood. And one of those things that serves as the purpose of blood is that without blood there is no redemption for sins or forgiveness for sins. Now, whose sins was he trying to atone for as he went into the most holy place? Whose sins was he trying to atone for? First, for his own sins, according to verse 7. He offers for himself, and then for the unintentional sins of the people. So, with all of these rituals, with the covenant that was in place during the time of Moses, the sacrificial systems, the system of the holy place being separated from the most holy place, and all of these things, and all the sacrifices and the rituals that the priesthood of Aaron did. Now, verse 9 and 10 actually gives us the failure of why this couldn't be a success. These sacrifices and these rituals, which we see being done by the Mosaic covenant priests, they could never perfect the conscience of the worshipper. Meaning, in other words, they couldn't go beyond the physical. They couldn't go on to the mental or to the inner being and sanctify and consecrate the worshipper. Every sin comes in man's deeds because of an evil conscience, and that is what the Mosaic priesthood couldn't address or couldn't perfect. So, what is the only thing that it could do? According to verse 10 of chapter 9, this could only deal with food, drink, and various washings, things pertaining to our body, things pertaining to that which can be seen. The Mosaic covenant could only regulate the external things of man, what he ate, what he drank, or his ritual cleansing, but it couldn't perfect his inner being, it couldn't perfect his conscience. So, these things were a reminder of how evil man's inner being is. In contrast to the Mosaic covenant and the tabernacle and the worship system and the rituals that they had, on the other side, we have Christ, the mediator of the new covenant. And what did he accomplish? That's what we read in verse 11 to 14. Jesus Christ, who came as the high priest of the good things to come, he went through a tent that is not made with hands. The Aaronic priesthood had a tent that was handmade, whereas Jesus, on the other hand, didn't just go through a physical tent or didn't just go through a curtain that was tangible. In other words, Jesus went through a tent that is not made by hands, not of this creation, meaning he went directly into God's presence. And he didn't go every year, unlike the Mosaic priesthood or the Aaronic priesthood. He just went once into the most holy place. That is in verse 12. And he didn't go by means of goats. He, unlike them, didn't rely on animal blood to be forgiven and gain an entry. Rather, he entered into the tent not made by hands, by means of his own blood, and by virtue of his entry into heaven, by means of his own blood, he secured a redemption that is eternal, which was unlike what the Aaronic priesthood offered to its worshippers. The Day of Atonement was something that they had to do it every year, whereas Jesus, when he went through the curtain, proverbially so to speak, Jesus went through the curtain, obtaining an eternal redemption once and for all. 13 to 14, these two verses give a stark comparison. The blood of goats and bulls and the sprinkling of ashes of a heifer on defiled persons could cleanse the flesh. But Jesus, who offered himself through the eternal Spirit without blemish to God, he purifies our conscience and rejuvenates us, makes us alive. In verse 14, we see the biggest accomplishment that Jesus gained on behalf of all of us. His work, which he did through the eternal Spirit, he offered himself as the living sacrifice or the sacrifice without blemish to God. So he was the one who fulfilled all of the uh, legal requirements that was against us. And by virtue of his death and by virtue of his entry into God's presence, what happened was he purified our conscience from dead work. So he rejuvenated us and gave us new life to serve the living God. And that is something which the Aaronic priesthood could never offer. It could never cleanse the conscience of a worshipper. It could only remind the person of his sins. It could never cleanse the conscience. Whereas Jesus, on the other hand, he gives us life to those who are dead. He purifies our conscience, cleanses from within, and enables us to serve the living God. He gives us life so that we can serve the living God. What a great truth that is as we compare these two systems that God initiated. And so, here we conclude this section, and may God's name be glorified.